Hello, my friends. This is Dwight from Ford's Glory 700 coming back at you with another video. And as always, this is another quick video, but I wanted to address an encounter that I had on my job yesterday, actually, last night. As I've mentioned before, I work for a transportation company. I'm a bus operator. I operate a vehicle in the beautiful province of Ontario, Canada. Anyways, here's the encounter. I had an individual and his girlfriend that boarded my vehicle through the center doors or the back doors of the vehicle, and they did not pay. We have an electronic system where you can pay with a card, and I did not observe either one of them doing so. So I signaled to the individual to come forward, and he did, and I proceeded to ask him if he was going to pay his fare. And he had explained to me, well, I'm only going 2 or 3 blocks. And according to him, other drivers have made no issue of it. So he's given me a clear indication that he's done this before. So I'm like, well, that's not the point. The point is you've chosen to utilize the service, and the company has an expectation that you pay your fare. So from saying that to him, he immediately turned around and started to argue with me over the fact that he's only going a few blocks. And I restated what I said before, that if you are choosing to utilize the service, whether you're going a few blocks or 100 blocks, the expectation is that you pay for the service. So from there, he proceeded to call me a coon, a house nigger, and started referring to the fact that there are other operators that are white who have not made an issue of him basically riding for free, because according to him, he's only traveling a few blocks and it's not that big of an issue. So I looked at the guy and I said, well, you can say what you want, but the expectation is that you're expected to pay your fare. No amount of name calling as it relates to me is going to change that reality. You're expected to pay your fare. And, the guy was so ignorant and so foolish and so stupid. And I think he would identify as black, although from his appearance, he did look like he may have some East Indian heritage in him, because his hair wasn't as coarse, or he didn't look like a West African black person like myself. But he felt it necessary to refer to me as a house nigger and a coon, simply because I was holding him accountable, as I do with everyone else, to pay your fare. I don't care where you come from, what community you identify as. The expectation is, if you're utilizing the service, I expect you to pay your fare. And it's always ironic that, in my experience, this is, I think, the second or third time I've been called a coon, a house nigger, or an Uncle Tom, simply because I'm explaining to people that if you're utilizing the service, you're expected to pay your fare. And I've always found that the people that refer to me as such, 100% of the time, on the few occasions that I've been referred to as one of those 3 references, it's always coming from someone within, quote unquote, the black community. I've never been referred to as a house nigger or a coon or an Uncle Tom by any other ethnicity except black people. And generally speaking, those are the same individuals that always play the victim, that are always, woe is me. It's because I'm black. It's because of racism. It's because white people. It's because of that. It's always an excuse for them. And so when they come across another individual that they would identify as being black or from their own community, the expectation that they have is that you just turn a blind eye. Oh yes, you're down with the cause, and so yeah, I can ride for free. You understand, because we're both part of the same cause, and we're both part of the same oppression. I don't buy into that bullshit. I never have, never will. It's just not something that I identify with. I don't identify as a victim. I don't identify as a nigger. I don't identify as a coon. I'm okay with being called Uncle Tom, because I've read Uncle Tom's Cabin, and if you've read Uncle Tom's Cabin, Uncle Tom is the protagonist in the story. He's not the antagonist. He is the protagonist. He's actually in favor of securing and protecting his community, and he understands the time for which he lives in. So Uncle Tom is not for me, it's not a derogatory term at all. I don't take offense to Uncle Tom, and most people that usually refer to other black people as Uncle Toms, I can almost guarantee they've never read Uncle Tom's Cabin, so they don't know what they're talking about. It's absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, I just wanted to do this video to let everyone know that, I'm a man that if you give me a job, if I'm employed by you, I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability, because that's the purpose for which you hired me. You didn't hire me to do my own thing. You hired me to do my job according to the stipulations and the expectations for which I agreed to work for you. So that's what it is. And so with black people, at least these individuals, not all, but I found oftentimes the greatest grievances that I have when I'm on the job, almost always, I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, is directly coming from people that look like me, people that come from my community, who have expectations for me to just give them a free ride, to turn the other cheek, to have lower expectations of them. And I don't. My expectations for all people are same across the board, even with transient people. If you come on my bus, I expect you to pay something. If you're boarding my vehicle and I've had a history with you being on my bus before and you want a free ride, you're not going to get the ride. It's either you contribute something, I respect that, then you contribute nothing. And if you make an issue out of it because you feel you're entitled to have a free ride, guess what? I am not moving my vehicle. And oftentimes I've done that, and at some point they eventually get off the vehicle. So my expectations for everyone is same across the board. Whether you're black, white, Indian, I don't care what ethnicity you identify as. My expectation is if you board the vehicle to utilize the service, you pay. If you're unable to pay, I expect you to be honest enough with me to acknowledge that, and then I will determine whether or not you're going to get the ride. But you're not entitled to a free ride. The service is for individuals that are going to pay their fare. So you can go on calling me an Uncle Tom, a coon, a house nigger, but you have no justification for those things because I'm simply doing my job. And I'm not offended by people that make those kind of nonsensical remarks. But the purpose of this video is just to let other people know that, you have to have a certain level of maturity. And I was in the right. He clearly was in the wrong. And here's the funny thing, just before I go. This same individual who's calling me a house nigger, a coon, he boarded the vehicle and his girlfriend was white. Now think about this for a second. I'm assuming he considers himself to be a pro-black individual. And he's referring to me as a house nigger and an Uncle Tom, and he's stepping out with his white girlfriend. How ironic is that? Does that make any sense? It clearly doesn't. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Now, I'm not against interracial relationships. I don't have any issues with that. But you can't go around and refer to another individual that looks like you as being a coon or a house nigger simply because he's doing his job and then walk off the bus with your white girlfriend. It makes absolutely no sense. So who's the real coon? Who's the real house nigger in that situation? Anyways, I thought I'd just share that with anyone who's either had a similar experience or, can relate to an experience like that I've had. Anyways, this is Dwight from Forest Glory 700, wishing you all an awesome day. Take care. Goodbye.